bill.
The Chief Executive will speak in Chinese and English first, and then we will answer your questions. 行政長官請。
各位傳媒朋友，
Friends from
各
the
位香
media,
港市民，
dear
昨
Hong
天
Kong
呢，
residents,
我係
yesterday
做咗一個
I
錄像
have
嘅講
made
話，
a televised
詳細
speech
同埋完整咁回應咗
and
有關
I
於
have
修例工作
responded
社會嘅
in
五大
details
訴求。
on the 5 demands from the
更加重要呢，
protesters.
係提出咗
Most
4項嘅
importantly,
行動，
I have also
希望能
proposed the
夠
4
讓
actions.
我哋喺今日
Hopefully,
香港面對嘅
these 4
困局
actions
可以走出一
can
步。
help Hong Kong be lifted out of the predicament. For the 4 actions,
係特區政
First,
府會正式
the Hong Kong SAR government will formally withdraw the extradition bill,
嘅疑慮。個做法呢，將會係由
and we will ease all the
喺立法會
concerns
復
from the
會之後
public.
去宣佈
And for
撤
the
回
Secretary
條例草案
of the Security will move a motion in accordance of the rules of procedures when the Legislative Council
呢個保
resumes.
安局局長
Even though there may be some concerns for the motion that will be taken by the Secretary of the Security, now I would like to make that very clear that we have only one purpose: to initiate the rules of the procedure, that is to withdraw the extradition bill. The Secretary of the Security will make announcements, and there's no need for the votings, and there's no need for the votings for approval from the Legislative Council. Second, we will give firm support to the IPCC. I will make a promise that the SAR government will follow all the reports that have been filed by the IPCC.
我提及嘅監警會委聘國際嘅專家
I noted, I also
監警會亦都發出一個新聞
realize
公告
there will be new members in the IPCC for the overseas
佢哋分別係嚟自
experts
英國
panel.
加拿大
So
澳洲
these experts are coming from UK, New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. And these experts are full in their experience, and they will contribute to the objectivity of the work of IPCC. Third, start from this month, I, together with other secretaries and leaders from different departments, to visit community and have dialogue with the residents, so that we can hear voice from people of different social class, political views, and backgrounds, so that they can voice out their discontent from the dialogue platform, so that we could discuss the solution together. The fourth action is that with the 2 months of demonstrations and clashes, I believe the residents may find that we have deep-seated problems in economy, political areas, and livelihood. And these deep-seated problems actually involve the area of gap between the wealth and the poor, and also people's participation in the government decisions. I hope this dialogue platform can provide an in-depth and open dialogue for all of you to discuss with us, and we will also invite social leaders, scholars to join us and to conduct independent study and learning and file recommendation to the government. Dear friends, with my team, I believe these 4 actions can break the deadlock in Hong Kong and bring positive change to the Hong Kong society.
In my statement last evening, I provided a detailed and comprehensive response to each of the 5 demands raised in society over this legislative amendment exercise. More importantly, I outlined 4 actions which the government will take in order to help Hong Kong to move forward. Action number 1 is for us to formally withdraw the bill in order to fully allay public concerns. Since my announcement, I noticed that there are still some worries about this particular procedure. I want to reiterate here that the sole purpose of the electoral procedure is to withdraw the bill. This involves the Secretary for Security as a responsible government official to announce in the Legislative Council that the bill will be withdrawn. There will be no debate and no voting. The second action is we will fully support the work of the Independent Police Complaints Council. I noticed that IPCC has announced yesterday details of the members of a panel of international experts, which will help in the assessment and the recommendations in the fact-finding study. These international experts are really renowned experts in their respective fields, and they come from the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. I pledge that the government will seriously follow up recommendations made in the IPCC's report. Third, from this month onward, I and my principal officials, of course including the Chief Secretary for Administration and the Secretary for Home Affairs, we will reach out to the community to start a direct dialogue. People from all walks of life with different stances and backgrounds are invited to share their views and air their grievances. We must find ways to address the discontent in society and look for solutions. The fourth action really requires us to have a better understanding of our society. This is because after more than 2 months of social unrest, it is obvious to many of us that the discontentment in society extends far beyond the bill. It covers political, economic, and social issues, including the oft-mentioned housing and land supply, income distribution, social justice and mobility, and opportunities for our young people, as well as how the public could be fully engaged in the government's decision-making. We can discuss all these deep-seated fundamental issues in our dialogue platform to be established. And I will also, in addition, invite community leaders, professionals, and academics to independently examine and review society's deep-seated problems and to advise the government on finding solutions. My team and I, we hope very much that these 4 actions can help our society to move forward. Let's look for solution. 多謝晒大家。
而家係提問時間，
Now is the
請大家
Q&A
先舉手同埋
section.
用咪發問。Now it's time for Q&A, so please raise your hand, and when picked, please use your microphone to raise your question. 白衫嗰位記者。
係林太你好啊，其實就係想問翻咧，即
Good morning.
係其實香港人咧由3月開始咧已經叫
Start
你撤
from
回修例，你
March,
到6月15號
and
先
the
宣布
protesters
市
saying
民咧6月
to
中叫你
withdraw
答
the
應大訴求
fugitive
你
bill,
就
but you
香港人
responded
冇咗8
in
條
June.
3隻眼
And
過千
also
人被捕
some
之後你琴日先
protesters
宣
are
布
accusing
撤
that
回
some of the
點解你
people
永遠都
are
係即係後知後覺要等
sacrificing their
3個月先
life.
會改變
So
立場
why
一
do
次
you have to
你
wait
而
for
家呢個
3
做法係
months
為即係
to
緊急立
change
法
your
即係
position?
鋪路咧？咁另外
Is it
就係咧，你
because
話
you are
監警
actually
會
laying
即係會
foundation
支
to
持佢
initiate the
個工作，
emergency
但係其實
regulation
監警
ordinance?
會個主席
And also you are saying
係
that we should
講過咧，
fully
監警會係
support the
冇權力
IPCC,
去
and
召
also
集
the
同埋
chairman
收
of
集
the
證據，亦都覺得政府係
IPCC
唔應該
is
排除
do
成立
not
一個
have the
獨立
right to
調查委員
collect
會。
the
點解你
evidence?
琴日都係仲係
So
要
for
否決咧？
yesterday,
最
why
尾就
do
係你
you
咧之前
once
發現
again
建商界嘅時候，你
denying
自己
the
都話
need
自
to
己咧係對
establish
香
the
港犯咗不可
independent
原諒嘅浩劫，即係引起咗
investigation
呢個不可原諒嘅浩劫。
commission?
民調
And
亦都
also
顯示
earlier
你已經
you
係成為
mentioned
香港
that
歷來
you
民
are
望最低嘅特首。
causing
點解你
the
至今仍然
destruction
覺
for
得自己
Hong
有能
Kong?
力去
So
管
I
治香
want to
港？
ask,
係咪違反咗
why
當
do you
年你對香港
still
人講
have
主
the
流意見，認為你
the
不能夠
faith
擔任行政長
to
官，
be
你係會
capable
辭職呢個
to
承諾？
take the
唔該。
position as the chief executive?
多謝
Thank
3
you.
個問題。昨天
Thank you
我
for your
公
3
布嘅4個
questions.
行動
Yesterday, I have announced 4 actions. I have only one purpose. That is to help a way out for Hong Kong to break the deadlock for today. On August the 18th, I had said, now we are actually trying to find a peaceful way to solve all of those problems. Now we are finding a way to establish the dialogue platform after we announce that decision and we see in the past 2 weeks, we found many people with different political views and different backgrounds. They are also telling me that we need to have a foundation for the dialogue. So yesterday, I proposed the 4 actions to set up this dialogue platform. So this is one of the decisions. And the second point I want to make is that for IPCC is a legal, lawful, and independent council, and it is dedicated to deal with any issues in relates to the police. For example, an individual case relates to a specific police officer, or some of the issues relates to the police operation. So for the SAR government, we are consistent. We should make use of the dedicated IPCC. So there's no need to establish such an independent committee investigating the use of force by the police. Start from early July, the IPCC has initiated their work. They have made a lot of efforts, and they would like to deliver an objective and justified report. And also they set up a special task force, and this will report to the Inspection Association. As I've also mentioned, that there were a specialized overseas experts panel to provide support to the IPCC. For all of this work, it will help to facilitate the investigation by the IPCC. So it can make sure that all of the investigation is dedicated and lawful. When IPCC submit the report to myself, the report will be transparent to the public. Yesterday, I also made the commitment. If we found recommendations or suggestions from the IPCC, the SAR government will closely follow the report. And for the position, I actually mentioned many times, I still have the responsibility and faith to continue our work to help Hong Kong to be lifted out of the trouble and end violence, restore order, and bring prosperity to our livelihood and the economy. Thank you. Next question. From CGTN and CCTV, as you have just mentioned, you will invite people from different social class, political views, and background to discuss the social issues. Can you give us more details on what participants that you will invite to discuss the social issues? Thank you. In the past few months, we are actually analyzing some of the situations happened in different countries. For example, some countries have some violent actions, and we understand behind the violence there may be some deep-seated problems. As you ask what kind of problems, what kind of social problems. So we have to have dialogue with the residents of the public. I have used some examples. For example, right now we have some housing issues, land issues, land shortage, and opportunities for the younger generations, social mobilities, public welfare, and participation in government decisions, etc. But I believe with this dialogue platform, we could get to hear more opinions from the public. So as to who will be invited to have this dialogue. I think at this moment we should first set up this dialogue platform, and we will visit the communities to listen to more opinions from the residents. Third, what we have been doing right now, we are actually learning from an incident happened in UK in 2011, because at that time they also set up an independent committee to investigate the in-depth and the deep city problems. But now we cannot fix all of these things. At this point, we should show our sincerity and send out this positive signal to the public.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Farah Master from Reuters. After 3 months of protests, what has made you change your mind to withdraw the extradition bill? And was this your own initiative, or was it from the central government? Thank you.
It is not exactly correct to describe this as a change of mind. You will remember on the 15th of June, and that is only within a few days, I announced the suspension of the bill. And of course, I also say that the legislative work on this bill will come to an end. And then in early July, in light of the worries about what is going to happen to this bill, I said the bill is dead. Okay. So as far as the substance is concerned, there is simply no plan to take forward the bill in light of the controversy. But since my announcement of a dialogue with society last month, about 2 weeks ago, we have been meeting a lot of people from different backgrounds with different political positions. And they gave me this piece of advice, which I now felt that was a very pertinent piece of advice, is that if the government wanted to start a dialogue, the government should also take the initiative to provide a basis for the dialogue. And the withdrawal of the bill to fully allay public concerns is one of those important bases for a dialogue. So I'm sharing with you the sort of developments over the last 2 months on how I have come to that decision. The decision is one of the Hong Kong SAR government, in the same way that the bill was introduced. The bill was initiated, introduced, and taken forward by the Hong Kong SAR government. But I'm sure you want to ask about the position of the Central People's Government, so may I just also supplement that throughout the whole process, the Central People's Government took the position that they understood why we have to do it. They respected my view, and they supported me all the way. So whether it is in the earlier stages of processing the bill and then suspension of the bill and then withdrawing the bill yesterday, this is the same position.
Please wait for your turn, please. 前排Tony.
Mrs. Lam, Tony from South China Morning Post. You still haven't answered the question of why you're making this decision at this juncture, because lawmakers from across the political spectrum have said it's too little and too late. So why did you only make this decision now? What went wrong with the government decision making? Because in your previous answer, those comments that were raised to you in the dialogue were raised in March and April, but you insisted on using the word suspend and the bill is dead, and insisted on not using the word withdraw. So that was indeed a turning point in your decision making. So can you further elaborate on that? And on Beijing's role, you haven't answered the question as well, because on Tuesday you showed no sign of backing down on any demands when my media friend asked you the question about 5 demands. But on Tuesday afternoon, HKMAO spokesman said we must separate the demands of the peaceful protesters with the violent radicals. And then on yesterday, you made this U-turn. So this shows that Beijing was pulling the strings behind the Hong Kong government, or are you causing more trouble for Beijing when there's this, all this geopolitics going on? And thirdly, the question on the police. a lot of people have said that it could have been a good idea for you to make the withdrawal in June or July. But now this movement is really about the police role in Hong Kong, and people have lost confidence in the police. So what would you do to really mend this problem? And even with the appointment of 2 new members, the IPCC is still a body dominated by pro-establishment voices. Would you do anything to change that composition of members? Thank you.
There are several questions. One is to answer your question about whether my announcement on actions yesterday were too little, too late. I suggest, and I hope very much, that this will be looked at in context. I have announced a package of 4 actions. So each of those actions requires a process of deliberation, and taken together, I hope that they would provide a basis for a dialogue and help Hong Kong to break the current impasse. So it is not looking in isolation at one of the measures, but we have to look at the 4 actions together. Secondly, about the timing of the decision made in the 4 actions, particularly the formal withdrawal of the bill, I have said that for a while we were bothered by a lot of disruptions and disturbances and violent acts in society. But 2 weeks ago, there was a relatively peaceful moment, and seizing that particular moment, the government announced that we should move on to having a dialogue with the people with a view to finding a way forward. And since then, we have been meeting with different groups of people, including people from different political backgrounds or having different views on this particular subject. And we have given the advice, and which I accepted that advice, that if we were to have a dialogue, the government should be the first one to come out to provide a basis for that dialogue. And this formal withdrawal of the bill, although it doesn't make a difference in substance, because there has been no plan whatsoever since my earlier announcement to resume the bill. So despite being no difference in substance, this is going to be a useful measure for creating that basis for a dialogue. And yesterday was best timing to do it. And there should be no further speculation about why we are doing it. The third point is it has always been our intention and our plan to stop violence. So while Hong Kong respects the freedom of expressions and freedom of assembly and marches, violence is not to be condoned. So if you ask anybody in society, including ourselves, of course, we would like the peaceful demonstrators not to go together with the protesters, or not to provide a legitimate basis for the really violent protesters who have been attacking our public infrastructure, blocking the roads, storming into buildings, and disrupting the normal operations of the airport and the rail. So this, I suppose, is a consensus of many people. Finally, on IPCC, it is not fair to describe IPCC as being dominated by certain people with certain political backgrounds. It is a credible and independent statutory body, and everyone being appointed by me onto IPCC is taking very seriously their independent and statutory function. The appointment of 2 new members is really to help with IPCC in a period which they are sort of shouldering almost unprecedented workload arising from the last 2-3 months, both in terms of dealing with individual complaints, and there are now quite a large number of such complaints, and also to conduct this very wide-ranging and detailed fact-finding study. Yeah. I've answered that in English, actually, to a preceding question. the Central People's Government, throughout this exercise of the Fugitive Offenders Ordinance amendments, as always, respects one country, two systems. In the same way as the Chief Executive, with constitutional responsibilities under the Basic Law, I have to operate under one country, two systems. So specifically, the Central People's Government's position on this bill at various stages is they understand why the government, the Hong Kong SAR government, wanted to do it. They respect my decision, and they support it at every stage. So whether it is in the very early process of taking forward the bill, or 3 months ago in suspending the bill, or yesterday in formally withdrawing the bill, that is the same position of the Central People's Government.
第二排白色衫會。
唔該，想問翻咧，即係就住嗰琴日提出嘅4項行動，其實係你向北京爭取翻嚟啊，定係北京嘅指示？
So for these 4 actions, is it because instructed by the Beijing authority? And also you're talking about the IPCC. And also we found that the 2 new members, they do not have any legal backgrounds. Are these 2 people are decided by the government? And also some people are saying that it is the government to blame for the current situation. Would you like to issue an apology to the public? Thank you. I would like to reiterate for the 4 actions I proposed yesterday. For these 4 actions, it is actually serve one purpose, that is to find a way out for Hong Kong and to break the deadlock. And for these 4 actions, we need the support from the general public. For the first action, that is the formal withdrawal of the fugitive bill, this first action will help us to lay a foundation for the dialogue platform. As I have repeated for many times earlier, I had announced the suspension for the fugitive bill. And it is actually the same as I said. I would like to withdraw the bill because we do not want the Legislative Council to continue their work on this bill. But I think it is imperative to have a formal announcement for the withdrawal of the bill, and this will lay foundation to set up the dialogue platform. As for the participation of the CPG, I have just answered that question. Under the one country, two system principle, we have to respect the CPG and also the basic law, and the central government firmly supports the one country, two system principle. And for the amendment of the fugitive bill, I have also mentioned for many times, at the beginning, we just want to fill a loophole in our legal system. It is my view to initiate the amendment, and the central government respects my decision. And in the middle of June, we do see some disputes and clashes in the society, and we do not make a very good explanation of the bill, and we announce a suspension of the bill. And at that point, the central government also supports and respects our decision. And at this point, in order to help Hong Kong be lifted out of the difficult situation, because we want in the future we have a open dialogue with the public. That's why yesterday I announced the formal withdrawal of the extradition bill. And also the central government holds the same opinion, and they will respect our decision. You haven't answered the question about the IPCC. IPCC is an independent legal body. For every member of the IPCC, they have been appointed by the Hong Kong SAR government. They have to fulfill their legal duties, so they have to carry out their investigation in a fair and justable manner, and they have to handle all of those police-related complaints. And they have to fulfill their legal duties to have a comprehensive investigation. So we should not hold doubts for the objectivity and neutrality of the members of the IPCC. I had said earlier For the violence that happened in the past few months, it actually posed heavy workload for the IPCC. So that's why, with discussion with the chairman of the IPCC, at this point we would like to add more new members to the IPCC. So yesterday, I announced the new appointment of 2 members to IPCC. At this point, we do see confrontation and disputes in the society. And for the new appointed members, they should be more neutral in their perspective without any political backgrounds. But it does not mean in the future the government will take a more neutral way in appoint members. In the past 2 years, in my role as the chief executive, I would like to see diversity in the IPCC and in different groups and the sectors of the government. We have new members from different backgrounds and also different age. So for the new members, they can voice out their opinions with different social class and political views.
前邊呢位女仔。
林太兩個問題，第一就係其實你期望落區嘅時候，市民會同你講啲咩咧？
The first question, what is your expectation?
最大嘅要求就係
For example, what do you want to hear from the
會唔會係落區只
public?
係其另外嘅一個 show， 去一啲
So
建制派
is it just a
比較
show
支
that
持
you
者多
would
嘅
like
地
to
方嗰度
visit
去所謂
the
聽佢民意
community?
然後甚至乎係學者話
For example, you would send out
為
some
施政報告
pro-establishment
做呢個白
allies
手套即係所謂支持
to
為你嘅
visit
施政報告去背
the
書。
residents, and is it an endorsement for your policy address? And the second question is that you're saying that you would end violence and restore order, so it feels like you're making a compromise to the current situation. Is there any possibility for you to initiate the emergency ordinance? Thank you. So I will visit different communities together with different secretaries and department leaders. So it does not mean that we will only visit a specific residence. And yesterday, I have made that very clear that I would like to hear the voices from people of different social class, political view, and background, and we would like to hear their opinions directly. And earlier, we are saying that we want to launch the dialogue platform. And some of the groups, they are actually suggesting they would like to participate in the dialogue platform. So we will not visit like specific members of the public, because at this point we would like to be more just and impartial in having conversation with the members from the public. So it is not the purpose to draft my policy address. And also from the conversation, but of course we will talk about the policies, especially those policies sparked discontentment. So if any residents talk about issues in relation to the policies, we will give them relevant answers. So for the policies, we will be included in the policy address, or we will talk about other policies. And as we could see, currently we have a downward pressure for the economy, and for the finance secretary also initiates many measures to improve the employment in Hong Kong. So we have to respond to some of the policy inquiries. And for some people asking what is the objective behind the 4 actions, I would like to reiterate, actually we have only one objective. So we just want to leave Hong Kong out of the current difficult situation and restore order in the Hong Kong society. So Hong Kong can return to the place that we are familiar with. Because for the past 2 or 3 months, these have put Hong Kong into a very difficult situation and bring anxiety to our residents. But the most pressing task is that we have to end violence and take strict law enforcement so that we can restore peace and order in the society. Without such a peaceful environment, we still have to implement our work. We need to gain support from the residents. But if every day we see violence, it will severely damage the operation of the society and also affect the livelihood of our residents. Last question.
All right, that was the press conference given by Carrie Lam, the chief executive of Hong Kong SAR government, and she mainly announced 4 actions concerning the current difficult situation in Hong Kong. The first being formally withdraw the fugitive bill without debate or voting, and the second, firm support on the IPCC, the Independent Police Complaints Commission, and the third is start direct dialogue with the public addressing their discontent, and the fourth actually addressing what the content really are through the dialogue. All right, now let's discuss the current situation in Hong Kong and about the press conference with our current affairs commentator, Mr. Victor Gao Zhikai. Hello there, Victor. Well,
thank you.
Carrie Lam had just announced 4 actions and trying to solve the current deadlock in Hong Kong. One of the reporters said it is too little too late. How do you think the sincerity of the Hong Kong government by announcing those 4 actions? Do you think it's sincere enough? Do you think the public will accept it just right?
Well, first of all, I think Carrie Lam's press conference and all the remarks she made are very important in calming down the situation in Hong Kong, and restoring law and order, and also in starting the dialogue with all walks of life in Hong Kong. It's a very important step forward. Whether it is all necessary, that's another thing. I think it's a very important step, and more steps will need to happen. Of top priority right now is to restore law and order. And I wish Carrie Lam has said at least one thing about praising the bravery and the hard work of the Hong Kong police officers, because they have really borne the brunt of the pressure in Hong Kong, and they have performed so brilliantly. IPCC is important, but the resolution and the bravery of the Hong Kong police officers all need to be given full credit on this very important moment.
Well, talking about police, Victor, the reporters at the press conference actually asked questioned a lot about the independent part of IPCC. Do you think that this issue is clearly explained by Carrie Lam to you?
Well, at least the appointment of 2 additional members to IPCC is, again, an important step forward. IPCC, given its nature, is independent and will do its job in an independent way. And having 2 additional members definitely will help more the performance of IPCC going forward. However, allow me to reiterate one point. I think for Hong Kong at this particular moment, someone needs to stand out and really give all the credit to the police forces in Hong Kong for the bravery, resolution, and the firmness in performing their duty, doing their job for maintaining rule of law in Hong Kong. And I hope Carrie Lam on another occasion will say this in public of her support for the Hong Kong police.
Thank you very much, Victor Gao Zhikai, our current affairs commentator. Thank you very much indeed. And that's all for this edition of The World Today. Coming up is a Global Watch. Stay tuned.